Welcome to the TIAC Talk series. These are short and snappy talks on a variety of topics and issues that TIAC is addressing through its advocacy initiatives on an ongoing basis. Each talk is designed to be practical and informative. By the end, you'll know what concrete actions you can take today to make a difference tomorrow. You'll hear success stories about organizations that are doing things right and how to keep the conversation going after the event. Vous entendrez dans les causeries sous peu des histoires de réussite concernant des organisations qui ont pris des bonnes décisions et sur la façon de poursuivre la conversation après l'événement. Au Canada, le secteur du tourisme emploie une personne sur 10. Nous pouvons contribuer au changement. Our tourism sector employs 1 in 10 Canadians. We can make a difference. So let's get these talks started.
Today, Angela Payne will be discussing the impacts of COVID on women in the workplace. Angela has spent her 20-year career in the human capital space, 7 of those years where she led the public organizations of LHH Knightsbridge and Monster. She is the co-founder of Lead HR, a leadership development organization focused on emotional intelligence, as well as the national board president of Lean in Canada, focused on empowering women in their careers. Welcome, Angela.
Well, we started 2020 with so much hope, talking about a new decade, about our clear vision, 2020 vision, and all of our great expectations. My daughter started high school this year, and we had a wonderful European vacation planned. My husband, who's a senior leader in the military, was taking on a new role, and I left my president role in a publicly traded company to launch my own business. I became an entrepreneur. We had a big year planned. And like many of you, I'm sure that you were excited and hopeful for the year and all of its possibilities. Now, in reality, what we saw was a completely different picture, an unraveling, if you will, a global lockdown, everyone frantically trying to figure it out. Closed schools, businesses shuttered, childcare shut, households in disarray, and like me, many women are now trying to pick up the pieces. We feel the pressure and, quite frankly, the responsibility to support. I spoke with a former coworker of mine who immediately said to her partner when the pandemic started, "Honey, I might have to leave my job. We're not going to be able to manage all of this." This is how the conversation went. And while they agreed to wait a little bit longer before making a decision, what was most distressing to her was the fact that her husband didn't say, no, we'll figure it out. Or even, why was she the only one thinking about what had to be done in order for her to support her family and who would have to make the sacrifices? On the world stage, we are seeing something very different play out. In female-led countries like New Zealand, Germany, and Iceland, where women like Jacinta, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, are leaning way in with decisive action, favoring the responsibility to protect our communities and the most vulnerable first. This, in contrast to the United Kingdom and the United States, and where slower action favoring that of economy over people has left hundreds of thousands dead or displaced. We know men and women lead very differently, and there has been lots of studies to bear this out and the strength that each bring in different crises. Now, I'm not suggesting in every instance that one gender is better than the other. However, with what the world stage is telling us is that communities should be favored over economy for a short period of time. And that may change, and we might need economy over community later. In essence, what I'm pointing out to you is the balance and value that women bring to the world in plain sight for all of us to see. So let's go back to March, April, and May, when the economy starts to shed tens of thousands of jobs, especially in the tourism industry, where we know you've been significantly impacted and where women make up 51.5% of the workforce. When we look at the impact to women specifically, the economic slowdown has been even more damaging as women have been disproportionately impacted by COVID. And I know this firsthand. My good friend Sarah, who works for a large airline as a middle manager in marketing, she loves her career. She has two adorable small children. She's married to a great guy who works in automotive repair, and she often helps out with her elderly parents. Sarah was laid off in April. You probably all know someone just like Sarah. Her losing her job has now made her the de facto boss of all unpaid work. What that means is she's now the chief school teacher, chief homework master, the chief cook and cleaner, grocery carrier to her parents, and all around superglue as she now supports everyone except herself and her career. This wasn't what she'd envisioned for 2020, or ever for that matter. Sarah pursued her career in the benefit of her family, and she was beginning to realize her own ambitions as a leader. She was the higher income earner in her family. And I wonder if Sarah will ever go back to her career, now that the family has gotten used to all her unpaid labor. And I wonder, what does that tell her younger daughter and her younger son, for that matter? Today, I'm here to talk to you about the risk of women leaving the workforce and the potential leadership crisis that we will see without women. Women's contributions are not only significant, it is often unseen. And I believe without this integral input, we jeopardize our organizations, our societies, and our economies now and in the future. So it's important to understand why women are leaving the workplace. Women are being forced to make impossible choices: career over family or family over career. And it is proving out month over month as the pandemic rages on that they are enduring a double shift. And when really pushed, they choose family. Lean In and McKinsey research shows that 1 in 4 women are considering downshifting or leaving their careers altogether. This double shift that I mentioned is making women, quite frankly, like my friend Sarah, actually say that perhaps her layoff was a blessing. She can't do it all, and she might have had to quit anyways. So what's the plan for her? She's now considering only part-time work so that she can have more flexibility and be responsible for all of that unpaid work I described. It's a heavy load to carry. And in fact, no one's saying that it's wrong. Not her husband, not her parents. They and we, society, are allowing that to happen, even expecting it perhaps, which means women's careers are seen as expendable in the family. Is it any wonder that it's an all-time high part-time work is done by women? Many of the jobs lost are frontline roles, less skilled and less paid, and overrepresented by women. In fact, women are paid 78 cents for every dollar a man earns. And in my opinion, this is a clear sign of the respect or lack thereof that we have for women's contributions. So women leaving jobs, putting careers on hold so that they can have the flexibility that their family needs is problematic for so many reasons. We already have a shortage of women in leadership positions, and their roles being seen as less than, in essence, tells women that their contribution isn't important and that this shrinking pool of talent is okay. Women need to have a voice at the leadership table, and we have heard this before. And in fact, with the pandemic, it is now in jeopardy to a much greater degree. Less Sarahs, less overall women means less talent, means less leaders to choose from. I was recently talking to a woman from a large hotel chain who basically shared with me that women rarely hold general manager roles. They hold supporting director roles, director of operations, director of sales and marketing, but general manager and regional vice president roles are seldom, if ever, held by women. And it's proven that women CEOs, according to S&P research, have as much as a 20% positive impact on productivity and profitability. But yet, women pay a penalty in their career when they choose to become a mother. The Canadian Pension Plan Investment Board CEO, Mark Mashin, criticizes this as a bias tax. And some organizations unofficially call it the mommy track. Essentially, it's a motherhood penalty. The cost of parenthood is placed on women. Conversely, men are often rewarded for taking on more responsibility and are given raises or job protection when children are present. We are all aware of our history and the fact that leadership has been male. And women are the often unseen and unrecognized support, affecting their compensation, recognition, and their job security. And while Lean In surveying shows gender diversity at an all-time priority of 87% for North American companies, it still needs to translate into a lot more action. Using my friend Sarah as an example, I highly doubt she will ever become a director or vice president of marketing, because the mental load that she is now carrying, which she accepted, has now become her real life emotional and physical load. Women make up half of the population in Canada. That's 17 to 18 million people, but only 8.5 women, yes, 8.5, not even a full 9 women out of 100 top paying jobs in Canada are held by women. The pandemic risks the leadership pool shrinking at an alarming rate. In April, women's participation in the Canadian workplace plunged to a 30-year low. So it's imperative that women be at the leadership table and that they be invited and not have to force their way in. Our innovation and our economy depend on the contribution, as seen on the political stage with Jacinta and Boris, in the way women think, problem solve, and lead. Women's contributions that are unrecognized or even worse, hidden, are a detriment to our economy and to our greater societal good. 2020 has continued to give us many lessons. And in the last 30 days, you would have seen women in Poland taking to the streets in the hundreds of thousands over the rollback of reproductive rights, effectively shutting down the country and grinding the economy and the government to a standstill. There's no unpaid or paid work being done by these women. And imagine if this was North America, what would be the impact? Consider women's buying power for a moment. It's significant, and in your industry, it's actually 82%. Wow. So that really means that 3 out of 4 buying decisions are made by women. If the pandemic continues to take women's paychecks, their voices, and their contribution out of the economy, that equates to essentially removing $1 trillion of gross domestic product by the year 2030. The result? A slower recovery and reduced public and private spending, basically on services like education and childcare, which force women to leave the labor market permanently. It's about respecting the work of women, regardless of where it is. We want to make sure it's a choice versus what's being thrust upon them as their total responsibility. When I think back to the decision to leave my corporate role and become an entrepreneur, did I expect this last 10 months to look like this? No, hell no. But I'm extremely grateful. I've been a leader and I've had a career and I will continue to have a career. I'm a business person and I will continue to be, but many women don't have the same story as me. For those women early in their careers or still climbing that ladder, this may be the setback that has them never going back. And it seems quite possible for my friend Sarah. So remember Sarah's story and my questions for her children. Will they learn that mom's career is not important? Does this reinforce women at home? Will it stunt education aspirations for girls? And ultimately, will it make it normal for women to be in subordinate roles? I don't think you want that. I don't want that, because the risk of women leaving the workforce and the potential leadership crisis we see without women is significant. And I believe without women's input, we jeopardize our organizations, our societies, and our economy. So what can you do? I believe there's really three things. We can be flexible. Don't let women take the double shift unconsciously. Work to keep them in your organization with real programs, because this always on culture that we're fostering is unsustainable. Review your promoting stats. Look at them over the last 2 years. What does it tell you? Are you promoting percentages in line with your population, 50-50 or better? And lastly, make women a critical piece of your recovery plans. Women will help lead us out and recover long after the pandemic with compassion. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this TIAC talk. The team at TIAC has worked hard to create a program that delivers ideas, solutions, and tools to help you navigate the pandemic and road to recovery. At TIAC, the focus is on ensuring there is a vibrant and successful visitor economy post-COVID-19, and we can't do it without you. Please visit TIAC's virtual booth to become a member and support their efforts.